welcome to the March 8th, 2021 regular board meeting for Raytown School District. Call this meeting to order, and I would ask Terry Landers to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I can't hear.
Everybody will join me, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. All right. Going to entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda, and the agenda will have one additional item, one item that was removed from consent agenda, and one additional item that will be placed under new business. So is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the March 8th, 2021 agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right. All right, report of board members. Any board members have anything they would like to share this evening?
Yeah, Rick, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Tody.
Yeah, I just want to let you all know that I think it was last Thursday, I attended the virtually muted and with no video, the Ray team meeting. And I did so because, you know, last year I kind of felt like we were a little bit behind the knowledge base on what had been accomplished in that meeting. And so I spent 3 hours non-participating. And I now have a really good understanding of what Ray team is asking for. At the same time, I thought if any of you have ever been, and maybe you haven't been to Ray team meeting, they are terrific meetings. They have a great style and temperament and judgment. And I would say also that Marlene and Steve do a great job collaborating with them. So I don't intend to make it a habit, but when we're starting to talk about budgets and so forth, I thought it was important. But I wanted you to know that I have some advanced knowledge of the Ray team presentation.
Okay, that's great. Yes, I would encourage anyone who's never attended Ray team to attend one of their sessions, attend any or all of them. They do great work, and they have always worked together handling our collective bargaining processes. So we appreciate the work the Ray team does. Any other board members?
I do.
Ms. Tittle.
On February 20th, I got to see Pippin from Raytown, the Raytown High School musical. I live streamed it, which is a big thing for me, and it was amazing. This morning, I read to 2 classes via Zoom at Norfleet, Mrs. Howe's class and Mrs. Secchio's class. And Wednesday, I'm going to read to 2 more, Mrs. Minnick's class and Mrs. Hartnett's class. And I just want to say thank you for the buildings who have sent gifts for school board appreciation, and the notes of appreciation that really daily sustain me. Thank you so much.
I too got to do Read Across America with Fleet Ridge. Miss Stephanie Howell had asked me to do a recording, so I did one of my favorite books as a kid. It's called Pickle Chiffon Pie by Jolly Roger Bradfield. It's a lot of fun. And so I actually had ordered an extra copy and left it with them for their library to have for the school too. And then on March 2nd, I got to log in and watch the Night of Jazz. All of our district jazz ensembles from the high schools and middle schools performed, and it was a great job put on by all of our band staff. And so just really appreciative of them making that happen. They did a great job. And then like Amy, I attended Pippin on February 19th. I went in person and got to see the really cool new auditorium being put to use. And those kids did an incredible job. We had like acrobats and the whole 9 yards. It was amazing. So good job, Mrs. Colster and your team. We really liked it.
Thank you, Ms. Plank. Any other
Mr.
board members?
Yeah, Mr. Moore, I went to the jazz concert and also to the play at Raytown High School, and I was telling Dr. Markley, we did the Zoom thing on the play, and just looking at the front of the stage, the work that's gone on there was very impressive. I said I wish that whoever was running the camera or the laptop would have made a panorama of the whole auditorium so we could really see what it looked like. I'm anxious to get up there to where we can see that. But the kids did an outstanding job. And then it's been an entirely different basketball season, but I've been watching a lot of Raytown South and Raytown High School boys and girls basketball on YouTube and what have you. And even though our season is over at both high schools, and I just want to congratulate the coaches and the players and the teams that they did participate. They had good seasons, and we're looking forward to being able to see them in person next year.
All right, thank you, Mr. Landers. Anyone else? All right, yes, I attended Pippin also. I attended in person. And the improvements at Raytown High School in the auditorium are excellent. Looks like a brand new building, a lot of technical features added there. So it did really help their production. And the kids did a great job and the directors did a great job in spite of all the obstacles they've had to deal with, which we all know are many. So it was a great job. Appreciate their work on that. The auditorium looks great. Attended virtually the foundation's Share the Love breakfast, and then also was able to participate and get the pastries baked by our wonderful culinary students at Herndon, and those were fantastic. So appreciate the work the foundation continues to do. I did also get a chance to substitute in a first grade classroom at Spring Valley on Friday. And if anyone is, if you get to the place where you're thinking too highly of yourself, just go into first grade classroom, because little Samantha, she reminded me, Mr. Moore, you're not doing it right. So they were a fun group, and we got through the day. It's a tiring day, so appreciate all the work the teachers do. So, all right, anything else? All right. I believe we're ready for report of superintendent.
Upstairs. Let's go down to,
I'll give him.
I'm having some technical difficulties.
All right.
Let's go ahead to the south auditorium.
Okay.
I'll go upstairs and get on the computer that's live.
All right. He's going to talk about that.
Dr. Shelton.
All right. We're going to start the report of superintendent, but we're going to skip down to South High Auditorium update, and Dr. Shelton.
Yes, thank you. Sandy Cochran from Hollis & Miller should be with us, and she will be providing an update on South High.
She is on her way in.
All right. Hi, Sandy.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see all of you tonight. So a request was made for an update on South High School and the strange gauge monitoring that we're doing of the current standing walls. We are monitoring the strain gauges monthly going forward, meaning we have an engineer who comes out, takes a reading of the strain gauges, does a report, sends that report to Hollis & Miller. We have our structural team review that report and then report back if there's any movement or any concern that needs to be brought to your attention. It's been about a year since we installed those strain gauges and finished the update on the west wall. Currently, there's no significant movement that needs to be noted or brought to your attention of concern. The north wall is being monitored consistently, but there's small fluctuations, but nothing of great concern. Are there any questions that we can answer as part of that monitoring?
Well, I don't know if it's part of the monitoring or not, but I'm trying to recall in the bond issue, didn't we set aside some money to refurbish the auditorium? Someone help me remember that.
That is correct,
Yes.
Mr. Todd. Yes, we did.
And how much was that? Like $3 million or something like that?
No, it was not quite that much. It was about 1.3. What we did is we rolled some of the funding that was wrapped up in that renovation and put it on hold for a possible future project. There are renovations scheduled to happen at South High School this summer that you approved at one of the past board meetings. There are no renovations taking place this summer for the auditorium itself as part of those renovations.
Is it would be, is it your judgment that the building is stable enough to perform those renovations?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We're not renovating the auditorium at all. We're not touching it. No, sir.
Well, the board already decided we didn't want to spend that money because we're looking at replacing the auditorium.
Correct.
And there was also an additional approximately 400,000 to add restrooms in that area, which we're putting on hold also because we don't want to spend that money if we're doing a major addition.
That's correct.
Well, I understand your point of view. And
It's not my point of view, that's what the board decided.
we passed the motion saying we're going to build a new auditorium.
No, we said we're not going to spend that money right now on the old auditorium.
Well, but if the building hasn't moved, why wouldn't we give reconsideration to spending that money? That's what we do, isn't it? I mean, we authorize these kind of, the building hasn't moved. I mean, if you think we should build a new auditorium, then we probably should, or a new building, we probably should have a motion to that effect, but I'm not aware there is one. The motion that, I mean, we still have money allocated, the public said spend it, and we haven't said, no, we're not. What, I guess my question is when we're gonna bring that back up again.
I don't have the answer to that specifically right now.
Mr. Tody, the rationale for holding those dollars is more related to the west wall. If you recall, the west wall of the auditorium was rebuilt. The structure itself was built with a expected life expectancy of 5 years. And those walls are doing great, but we do know that that repair that we made is a repair and it's not a permanent fix. And that purchase, if you recall, was paid mostly with insurance money, if not entirely with insurance money. But that repair is going to buy us time to make a decision, long-term decision as to whether to build a new performing arts center or to do something more permanent with that west wall.
So when are we going to bring that to focus?
Next month, the April board meeting, we're going to give the board an update on the drawings for the new Performing Arts Center and the financial scenarios that would have to occur to make it happen, along with potentially another bond issue during that time period. And that will happen next month. Sandy will be back with her team, also along with the design committee that was there as well, and Dr. Hux and that group, and they will be presenting to the board again. You've seen some rough sketches, but again, they're going to bring everybody back up to speed on what it looks like, cost, and we'll also update you with what it will take to cover that cost.
But okay, and we can talk about this next week. But I didn't recall that we had a 5-year estimated useful life for a wall, and I guess I want to understand that more clearly before we go build another building. Perhaps you could really help me on that, Sandy. I would really appreciate that.
You want to speak to that, Sandy?
Sure. So, Mr. Totem, we were looking at how we were going to fix and repair that west wall. The solutions that were proposed to the board were permanent in that it is a stable structure, but semi-permanent in that it's not meant or intended to last past a 10-year life cycle. A lot of that was decided because the rest of the structure, knowing that it was could possibly be aging incorrectly, it wasn't built properly from day one. So this board decided to go ahead and build something on that west wall that would be able to go up from 3 to 5, 10 years maximum. So it is stable, it will stay, but it's not a full long-term solution where it's going to match the structure of the rest of the building. The south wall was constructed in that manner. It is CMU block, it's reinforced with steel, it's grouted, it is meant to last, a much longer time frame versus that west wall was temporary. We built it with structural studs. It does have steel, but it will not last as long as the rest of the building structure. So because of cost, this board decided to go ahead and put a semi-temporary permanent structure on that side, knowing that another idea to replace that auditorium could possibly happen down the line.
Okay, that helps me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Markley, go ahead with the rest of your
Okay,
report,
very
please.
good. Appreciate you. My computer died down in the boardroom and I did not have a replacement for that. So I'm back up here. Going back to the top on the legislative update, they're a couple weeks away from spring break. They've had several breaks in the action down there in the General Assembly from COVID outbreaks. There's not a mask mandate in the Capitol building, and the things that are, obviously they're having some community spread issues, and they're trying to get their work done as quickly as possible. They would like to get some things across the finish line prior to spring break. We're not sure if that's going to happen, but again, the bill that is out there, there have been some things that have moved a little bit, but the bigger one is Senate Bill 55, which we've talked about here. It is an omnibus education bill that contains many different school reform efforts as far as tax credit vouchers, expansion of charter schools, school board recall election items. It's also calling for potential disinvolvement with the Missouri State High School Athletic Association, many different things. And I will tell you, a week ago, the bill was brought to the floor. They did not have the votes to get it passed. So they dropped a substitute, and the substitute was even more restrictive than what the original bill was. And interestingly enough, you don't see this happen very often, but the sponsors of the original bill actually filibustered the amendment and the bill itself to keep it from passing, because the bill was even more stringent than what the original bill was. So we'll see. They're going to continue to push. We will continue to educate our staff and our communities. Again, as always, any type of legislative issue, if there's a question from the board or from folks in our community that may be watching this meeting, questions, give me a call. I know the board gets their MSBA legislative voice and they can read the summaries of the bills, but we also have different access to different information to update all with that. Questions for Dr. Mixon or Dr. Moore on the elementary principal report or the secondary principal report? I know that I've asked Dr. Mixon to give us a quick update on the first week of return for secondary kids. You want to go ahead and do that for me, Dr. Mixon?
Yes, thank you all. We had a great week last week. We have 8 students attending on A days and B days. I think you could see on the information on your report, it kind of talks about our in-person virtual students, our number of concurrent classes, and really the maximum and the maximum number of students in each class and the average number of students per class. Our counselors and teachers have been working really hard. And if you look at the last page of this, it kind of talks about the number of concurrent and in-person classes. And I've been around to buildings and just have really been seeing how difficult it is to operate in those concurrent classes. And kudos out to our staff that are managing that. It really is a juggle to manage the kids in front of you and to be able to teach a lesson and to also trying to meet the needs of the kids that are working virtually. So to our kids and to our teachers out there doing that, thank you for all your work and making that work. Our counselors, as I said, worked very hard to make sure that we had classes, our virtual classes and our in-person classes separated. To that end, we did have quite a few requests for changes, and that is in that middle graph right there. And our counselors worked really hard to make those changes happen, especially if they requested to go back to virtual. So that required a complete schedule overhaul because like I said, we changed our schedules in January at semester. So students were basically separated into in-person or virtual. So if students wanted to go back to virtual classes, we required another schedule change. So counselors have been working on that this week. We do still have a few pending. They're getting to them as quickly as they can. We have a few families who've wanted to come back in person now that we've made the decision to go in person. And so counselors are trying to work through that request as well. We're working, Mr. Easley is meeting with principals this week to talk about possibly being able to transport more students on buses. And so we are working through those requests as we get to them. So hopefully we will be able to make our families happy and our kids give them what they need, either in person or virtually. Any questions about the reopening for secondary buildings?
Yeah, I have one question, and it's not so much about the reopening. It's how are we going? I've had this question asked from people in the neighborhood. How are we going to evaluate our students to the extent of they have mastered the various subjects to the extent that we can promote them? Is that an issue for you, or is there a solution? And what would I tell my neighbors?
Well, at the secondary level, one of the things, students earn credits. So especially at the high school. So if students earn their credits, then they will be promoted to the next grade level. And we are aware, as we've been talking with this board back since the first semester, that we have a larger number of students who have not passed some classes. So we are anticipating an increase in our summer school enrollment. We are putting things in place to make sure that we have virtual and in-person classes for summer school. Our virtual classes will be offering some recovery credit classes with our teachers this summer to help some of those students make sure that they've got the credits to be able to move forward. And same thing with middle school as well, and elementary, making sure that we have a robust summer school program that is working on remediating some of the skills that students may have missed during this COVID process. But at the secondary level, it mostly comes down to credit. So we are really making sure that students have the opportunity to retake classes to earn those credits that they may not have earned during this process.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Mixon, I just want to tell you, thank you for the job that you guys have done and the staff. I know in our house, it has been appreciated to be able to be in person. And I know it is a sacrifice for a lot of people. And I just want it to be known that it's not, we notice it and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Ms. Plank. I tell you, it was so great to see students last week in person in all the secondary buildings. And there's just such a great feel to having kids back in the building. The kids are happy, the teachers are happy to see them. And, we make accommodations and kind of get used to the whole mask wearing and some of the restrictions that we have in place, but overwhelmingly, we're just so glad to be back.
Dr. Mixon?
Yes.
What measures, are we still taking any measures to improve our virtual learning? Seeing that we still have a lot of kids that's making that an option.
Our virtual classes, right now, we mostly have our teachers teaching those virtual classes. And, I've been in many of those classes and I think they're doing a great job. And I would think our principals do as well for delivering content in a virtual setting. And, obviously this has been a huge shift for our staff, but we have lots of tools in place to help them be successful. And I feel like, our virtual classes are going very well. The kids are learning and are participating. And obviously we constantly look at ways to improve what we're doing, but I feel like we're on pretty solid ground. And, I would encourage anyone who wants to pop in on a virtual class or an in-person class, I know all of our principals would welcome you, and we would be happy to set you up for observations or just to see classrooms in person.
I mean, I guess my question is more about, one of the impetus about going back to class in person at this time was just the struggles and the disadvantages that we were having in virtual learning in regards to the students' mental health and their social well-being and things of that nature. I was wondering if there's anything more that we can be doing in that area. Seeing that we might be still talking about virtual learning out and even in summer school.
As far as meeting the mental health and social emotional needs of students in a virtual setting, that is something that we are going to continue to work to refine. And it's difficult because, one of the things is we're sitting in virtual classrooms. A lot of times kids they don't want to show their faces, and you don't see their screens. And so you kind of see the tops of their heads when they're in virtual classes. And it's really hard to connect with kids, and it's hard for them to connect with each other. So as far as that is something that we need to continue to do is work on those social emotional needs for virtual kids, kids who are taking virtual classes. That's part of the reason, we did come back in person, and we have a lot of the kids making those connections in person with their peers. We have some restrictions, at lunch that students are socially distanced at lunch, and the cafeteria looks much different, but kids are finding a way to visit with each other, and just that in-person connection with their teachers and with their peers makes that so much easier when we're in the buildings. But as far as virtual learning and improving that's something we need to continue to work on, and teachers are working with their advisory students and in person or with the virtual kids on that kind of in a separate basis.
Do we have any way of reaching out to those kids and those families that we may be thinking having some of those issues?
We do, and we have our social workers connecting with families, with the kids that are virtual. We have our counselors reaching out and working with kids that are virtual. It's in any time that a teacher is aware, maybe a student's not been getting on a regular basis. We've gone back to taking attendance, so it's a little bit easier to track the students not been participating virtually in classes. So our administrators and our social workers and our counseling staff can and interventionists also will reach out to those families just to check on kids and to see what's going on and what they can do to assist them.
Dr. Mixon?
Yes.
Retired teachers had their meeting today. They meet once a month, and I got a message from one of the retired teachers that substituted last week at Raytown High a couple of days. And you can pass this on. She was amazed and overwhelmed or whatever at the way it was working, and the kids, the way they were going during class passing time. And she was really impressed with the way they had it set up and how everybody was doing what they were supposed to. So if you want to pass that on, that came from an old teacher that knew what's going on.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Mr. Landers.
Yeah.
I think the only complaint I've heard is there are some tired kiddos out there not used to getting up at 7 a.m. anymore.
Yeah, we had a few fall asleep on the bus on the way home on the first couple of days. Secondary kids, which doesn't usually happen. So that's true. Okay, if you don't have any other questions, again, I welcome you. If you want to pop in on a class, a virtual class or an in-person class, let me know. I'll be happy to set that up.
Thank you, Dr. Mixon. The last item, 6.7, the spring 2021 map and EOC testing schedule. That's there, and Dr. Huff is here to answer any questions you might have. That's one way, just one tool we'll use to speak to Mr. Tody's question and the neighbors about how we're going to assess and determine what route we're going to take with students K through 12, actually map testing 3 through 10, but actually 3 through 8. But also next month, Dr. Huff will also be bringing back the recovery plan that we have in place and we intend to institute moving forward. That includes summer school, what next year is going to look like, additional staff that we would look to possibly hire to help with our kids and those kiddos that need that extra help. So that'll be coming next month to the board.
Dr. Markley, if I may, there's a couple important points about the MAP test I just want to make sure that the board is aware of.
Go right ahead.
One is the state is requiring that we do this test in person. It's the MAP and the EOC. And we do anticipate that we're going to have a large number of our students that are not going to want to come to the school. So we anticipate that we're going to have a fairly good number of what we call level not determined, students who do not take the test. We will encourage, we will try to find ways of getting students to the school. We will find safe places for the students to be able to test where they are not closely around other people, but we do anticipate to have a large level not determined. Also, traditionally, we give the EOC score is 10% of the students' grades. We will not do that this year. They will just have a regular traditional final for the EOCs. So those are two of the big stories.
Dr. Markley.
Yes, ma'am.
This is not on your report, but I'm just curious. With the stimulus money coming down, I know that the district will be applying for. Did we do anything about the ventilation system in the schools and the bus, or were we going to do anything?
Yes, the buses have already been taken care of in Salisbury, and they're, I thought last week they may have gotten started on some of the PCOs for the buildings. And I don't know, let me see, you can give us an even better update on that.
Dr. Markley, yeah, Dr. Markley, they have completed the PCO work on the buses a number of months ago, and they have completed the PCO work in the hallways throughout the district. And if you walk into our buildings throughout the hallways, you'll see white boxes in the upper corner of our hallways with the blue light, and those are the PCO devices that we purchased. Total purchasing price of both items, both for the buildings and the buses, was about $300,000, and that was reimbursed through some of the CARES Act money.
Okay, good deal.
And that's all I have, Mr. President, unless there are any other questions.
All right.
I had a
Thank you
couple
very much.
questions.
Mr. Burke.
One, I'd like to make note that even though it seems like it's obvious that it would occur, that the OSS and ISS numbers are way down. However, they still exist. We were given a report on that, but the demographics on that were excluded. And also, I just wanted to know when you're in virtual learning and you receive OSS, what is your education option?
Mr. Burton, I can answer that question. When students, that is one of the nice things about having the virtual instruction that we have it right now. When a student is on, a secondary student especially is on suspension, they're able to complete their work either asynchronously or get on with the class. But that is a decision of the building, but they're able to continue to make progress on their work just fine.
So are they watching the video later?
It's really person to person on an individual basis. When I say asynchronous, that doesn't necessarily mean a video. It might just mean that there are lessons that they work through and submit, just like the rest of the students. An asynchronous lesson could include a video, but it also may not. And that's for all of our students. The teachers typically put together somewhat of an interactive lesson that may have some links that they go out to and learn more about a subject, or we've given them lots of different tools to be able to make the asynchronous much more personal to the students, but they are able to do asynchronous work.
I'm sure. I assume that makes learning and teaching those children more difficult.
Well, yeah, anytime you bring somebody out of the, out of the regular classroom environment is more difficult, but we have always, and this, harkens back beyond this year, we've always thought it was important that we keep a student moving forward even when they are under suspension.
And what is ISS in this setting? what is that? Just a separate classroom where that, I mean, just the same as it always was?
I cannot think of an example of ISS. And so Andrea, maybe you can think of an example of a student that's been put in ISS.
Many times when we are in virtual learning completely, the ISS and OSS will likely at times look similar, so that students would still participate in the Google Classroom activities and still do all of the work and be given all the work that they miss while they're gone. So it many times will just depend on the severity of the infraction. Students that would get OSS, it would be for a more serious disciplinary consequence, whereas an ISS would be something that was not as serious.
Thank you.
Dr. Barkley, I'd probably be remiss if I didn't ask you about enrollment, because it's been a year since we talked about it, and we had a lot of issues with COVID over the course of the last year. It's still on my mind, and I know it's on your mind. Some of these advancements, so-called advances by Senate Bill 55, it could plague us in enrollment. We're also training a cohort of youngsters who like virtual learning to participate on that level. And more is being written that across the country, kids are moving around, they're just not coming back. And so I'd like to, we did this a year ago, and then we had COVID, and we had some fast track ideas. You and Alonzo and Rick and I sit down, and Brian and Steve, but I'd like to not forget that, because we're an institution that has public money and public buildings. And the sooner we evaluate at a national scale the impact on enrollment in the next year or so, the better we are, so that we can plan what that will do to the need for facilities in the long term. And I sense that you support that. Would you speak and maybe give a few words on that, please?
Yeah, and you're right about it. We did discuss this last year. I think it was January of last year that we had that discussion.
Okay.
And then COVID did hit us. But in that time, we're securing some assistance from the outside, because we knew this wasn't something we're going to be able to do on our own. Marketing, we're not trained to do that. So we're putting the pieces together. That include a demographer study to see where we're at. Again, we haven't done that in a while, to see if we're growing at all, or if we will grow, depending on what's out there, along with some different devices. If you probably saw the last meeting, let's talk type initiatives to figure out what our families, where they're going, why they're going, what they'd like to see, trying to connect and put together a marketing plan to get people to want to come to Raytown schools. Here's what we are, because we've said how many times that, and a lot of people, even I remember Mr. Burton saying this, I've heard him say it before. I didn't even know that was going on in the school until I got on the school board. Well, he had to get on the school board to figure it out. We think, well, how do our parents know what's going on, right? So we need to be better at that, telling our story. So we intend to put that package together, and you're probably going to see that in the next couple months of where we're going to go. But probably demography study for starters is going to occur here pretty quickly. We'll be bringing you an RFP to approve that. Again, there is cost associated with all those things, but we also feel like that will be money well spent. So that's where we're at. We're piecing that puzzle together and going to bring the board along when we have that in place.
And I would only ask you to think about that's the virtual piece, because we've got a lot of competition out there now with other service providers, and we got to be really good at that. And so I think over the summer, hopefully we'll evaluate ourselves and see how we stack up against other providers that might also be paid with state money. So those are long-term issues.
There are long-term issues that also need a legislative fix as well, because right now, the way the legislation is going, we're not going to be allowed to provide that virtual piece with the legislation that's being written. we're not going to have an option as a district to offer that, and we're not going to have an option as a district to deny it, even though we could offer it. And that's the way the legislation is written. So we've got to be ever mindful of that. We're going to continue to press forward, and we're going to have some virtual options, particularly at the secondary level. And we'll have partners with that. You know, we use Launch out of Springfield, and the reason we do that is because it's being taught by Missouri educators inside Missouri, and some of those are ours. Some of our teachers have been teaching some of those classes for Launch on the side, you know, outside of their normal job. So, but we're going to have to fix that legislatively first, Mr. Tody, because we may not have that option if it passes in its current form.
Okay, thank you. Very good answer.
Okay, Mr. Moore.
Yep. Any other questions for Dr. Merkley? All right. Danielle Nixon, did you know?
Good evening. On tonight's Did You Know? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. On tonight's Did You Know, we have a new Trails family that received a home makeover thanks to the law firm Bartimus, Frickleton, Robertson, and Rader. They helped a Raytown family build their home after it was destroyed by a family a little over 6 months ago. The law firm teamed up with builder Kevin Green and other donors to make the home makeover a reality. And so that's that first photo that you see on Did You Know? The 8136 Fire and Ice robotics team placed first runner-up in the design award in the Northwest League of the Missouri First Tech Challenge regional competition. The team worked together virtually to come together to construct this season's robot, and the Fire and Ice robotics team members include Garrett Merrill, Corey Wilkinson, and Kai Hensel from Raytown High School, and Jonathan Lewis, Luis Esquina, Rebecca Cook, Thomas Elkin, Will Abbott, and Kara Henderson from Raytown South High School. Our food service department is offering curbside meals, which are available from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Monday through Friday at Raytown High School and Raytown South High School. And on Wednesdays, the meals are available 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at all 3 middle school locations, in addition to the high school locations. But we're also blessed to have community organizations that are still providing meals and grocery assistance for our families and community offerings on our district website. We sent a flyer through Peach Jar, and we've been sharing those offerings through social media as well. We have a Cardinal wrestler who's going to make history. She is a varsity girls wrestling student athlete, Jasmine Alcantara. She will be wrestling tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the state wrestling tournament. And she earned first place in the district tournament and second place in the sectional tournament. She is the first varsity girls wrestling team member to win districts and qualify for state in the history of the girls wrestling program at South High School. Her record for this season is 29-4. The state tournament will be available to watch online for a fee via MSHA's website. And that's what I have tonight for Did You Know?
All right. Thank you, Ms. Nixon. I think we'll all be glad when we can get back to normal and have some of these students at our meetings in person, because we like to see them and congratulate them and talk to them in person. So good job on some of these items this month for those students. All right, I don't believe there was anyone signed up to speak to the board this evening. All right, seeing none, board committee reports. Bid benefits committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Benefits Committee met on November 9th and also again on February 23rd. The November minutes we'll ask the board to review those and approve those later on tonight. The February minutes are provided, but they have not been reviewed or approved by the Benefits Committee, and they'll do that at the next meeting. In February, the committee met and reviewed the claims data and the proposed renewal information for health, dental, vision, life insurance, and voluntary products. Also, the committee reviewed the most recent data from the Raytown Schools Quality Care Clinic. All 3 presentations are provided on this agenda item. I would encourage everyone to take a look at those items. The renewals will be discussed later on in the meeting, so I'll leave that for later on. The benefits guide that will be created, that is a wonderful document that outlines all the benefits that our employees have access to, will be presented to the board in April. And open enrollment is scheduled from April 21st to May 12th. One item I'd like to highlight from our meeting is the expansion of services at the clinic. In the near future, staff will have access to a mental health provider through the clinic. I think it's a wonderful addition for our staff. Lastly, in the coming months, the benefit committee will meet several times to explore the advantages and disadvantages of moving to a self-insured model for health insurance. And those discussions will be shared with the board at a later date. I'm available for any questions and would ask that the board approve the November minutes.
If I've forgotten, I'm sorry, but I don't, that's the first mention I've heard of possibly going to self-insurance on health. Is that a new thing?
That is a new thing, and it definitely is not set in stone or a done deal. That's actually what we're doing in the upcoming meetings, is to explore those advantages and disadvantages and then bring a recommendation to the entire board. If it's a direction that the benefits committee would feels like it's beneficial to our employees and to the district. If we get to the end of that discussion and it's not to our advantage, then we would not bring that recommendation to the board.
So who brought up this idea that that it's even a possibility?
It's a discussion that myself and CBiz, David, specifically David Johnson from CBiz, have been having. We've been looking at our claims data, specifically our pooling data, and the opportunity to save the district some potential dollars by taking that out to market, pulling that out of the overall plan and individually marketing that, as well as we could take a look at pulling out the pharmacy product out of the current plan and marketing that individually. So there are some advantages and there are some disadvantages to a self-insured model. And we just want to fully look at those, do our due diligence to determine if that is something that's to the district's advantage.
All right. Okay. Thank you. If there are no questions for Steve, I'd entertain a motion to approve these meeting minutes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Landers.
I move to accept the November 9, 2020 benefit committee meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other questions? And all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right. Thank you, Dr. Sheldon. Finance Committee meeting minutes.
Yes. Thank you, President.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met on December 14th as well as February 8th, and the December minutes have been reviewed and approved by the Finance Committee and are presented to the entire board tonight for consideration of approval. The February minutes are also provided, but they have not been reviewed or approved by the Finance Committee, and that will be done in April. And you can see both those minutes attached to the agenda item. Some of the highlights from our current financial condition are that year to date, we have a $7 million loss of overall revenue, and specifically a $7.4 million loss in operating revenue. And this loss of revenue is reflected across all revenue sources, local, state, and federal. February's overall revenues were up slightly in February, but the operating revenues in February were down $373,000 compared to last year. Year-to-date expenditures are down $3.6 million, and operating expenditures are down $2.9 million from a year ago. February's overall expenditures were down 3.6, and operating expenditures are down just a little over $500,000. Also of note, our debt service expenditures were down significantly. This drop is a result of lower debt service payments compared to last year, but also last year we paid off the 2011 bond refunding, which reduced this year's expenditures by $1.9 million as well. Our current operating balances are running $4.5 million lower than last year. On a positive note, though, and there are a couple of positive notes I'd like to share. The governor has released $127 million of money that he withheld from K-12 education. And what that means to our school district is that we'll receive a little over $1 million in additional revenue now that those funds have been released. Also, CARES Act 2, the district was allocated $8.3 million, and we are in the process of identifying reimbursable expenses that we can apply for and receive that 8.3, hopefully before the end of this fiscal year. And then lastly, you may have been watching what's going on in Washington, D.C. The CARES Act 3 is going through the process of being approved, and assuming that it is approved, some of those funds will be funneled to our school district. We haven't received final word as to what that allocation will be from the CARES Act 3. I'm available for any questions, and also would ask that you approve the minutes from December.
Yeah, Dr. Shelton, so on the governor's release of the funds, those are funds that we did receive last year and were being withheld so far this year, right?
Well, actually, no. If you recall, the governor withheld the same amount of money from last year's budget, and we never received that. So if you recall, in May or June, the governor withheld the $127 million from all K-12 schools. And our portion of that we never did receive. So that once again was over $1 million that we did not receive last year. This year in July, he immediately held that same dollar amount from all K-12 education, and we have not received about, I want to say it's $1.3 million that we will receive now that he has released those funds now for distribution to the schools.
But you hadn't counted that as revenue. Expected revenue then, yeah.
The actual 1.3 that was built into the budget, when we built the budget and the board approved that budget, he had not announced that withholding for this year. So this is money that we're expecting to get, and if he had not released it, it would have been budgeted funds, budgeted revenues that we would not have realized.
So when you say that, since we were already planning on that revenue, it's not going to positively impact the negative revenue that we've already had.
Well, it'll take that, currently it'll take that $7 million deficit, $7.4 million deficit, and it'll make it, $5.3 million.
Okay, well, that's good. That's what I was getting at. Any other questions for Dr. Shelton?
Yeah, I have a couple questions.
Cody.
I hear there is a report on the February 8th report of the Finance Committee. I'm not sure what Finance Committee that is because I resigned from the Finance Committee and Beth resigned. And so, but okay, there's a Finance Committee meeting. My concern after that meeting, whatever that was, that we got a survey on various things, initiatives that we might favor or not favor, or whether we would listen to approaches on taxes. What was behind the survey, and why didn't we just get some phone calls? But in any event, when are we going to get the results of that survey, that casual survey?
Thank you, Mr. Tody. The results of that survey will be brought to the Finance Committee in April at our April Finance meeting, and we'll review those at that Finance Committee meeting, and then bring it to the entire board following that meeting.
So that Finance Committee will be the Finance Committee outlined in the board policies. Is that correct?
Correct. So
we're meeting as the Finance Committee plus the members of the board who want to attend. We'll meet as a committee of the whole.
Oh, okay. So there'll be Finance Committee members, and then if others decide to attend, they'll be able to go ahead and vote. Is that what you're saying? I didn't quite understand that, this notion of the Finance Committee as a whole. The concept is not familiar to me in looking at the board policies.
So in our board policy that discusses committees, there's an option to meet as a committee of the whole, which is the entire board becomes the committee, whatever that committee may be. And in this case, as you stated, you had resigned, Ms. Plank had resigned as well. And so now the finance committee is a committee of the whole, which is a committee of the entire board.
Well, we could debate that because that section that you're talking about is the preamble to the board policies, and I'm not certain that it falls in the finance committee section. But be that, back to my original question though. Well, why did we? What's the deal with the surveys, and why didn't we get anything back from it? We took time
So
to do it.
Well, it's good practice, as I build, and it's good practice, and it's common practice with chief financial officers from around the state. As we build our budget, we'd like to know what the goals of the board are for that budget. And so we collect that information from the board. And since it is a topic that grew out of the finance committee, it is going back to the finance committee first to be reviewed, and then will be brought to the entire board to be reviewed.
Okay, but when will we get the results of the survey?
So once again, as I stated, at the April Finance Committee, we'll share that. And then following the April Finance Committee, I'll bring it to the board at the April board meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Is there a motion to approve the December 14th Finance Committee meeting minutes as presented?
Mr. President,
Mr.
I
Landers.
move the board approve the December 14, 2020 Finance Committee minutes as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries. Technology Committee meeting minutes. 9/29/20. Is there a motion to approve the September 29th, 2020 Technology Committee meeting minutes?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move the board approve the minutes of the 9/29/2020 Technology Committee meeting.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. 2/25/21 Technology Committee meeting minutes. There's not a motion on this. Melissa, did you have any? Okay, Melissa, there she is.
Yes, Mr. President, I would like to say we met on February 25th, and the committee decided that we will be extending our 2-year technology plan for an additional year. Our current technology plan runs through the end of this school year, but with COVID and our switch to virtual learning, we did not feel like we could collect enough data to make a determination on how to progress for our next 2-year technology plan. So we'll be using this additional year for data collection.
Okay, but do you want us to vote and approve these meeting minutes from 2/25?
No, this is for information only. Since we will not meet again until the fall semester, which is when that technology plan would go into place, I wanted to make sure that you were aware that we were extending our 2-year technology plan by a year.
All right, does anyone have any other questions for Melissa? All right, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Ray team update. Dr. Shelton, are you going to lead this or?
Thank you, Mr. President. No, Brian Wise, Amy Lowe Smith, and John Coleman will be entering the meeting, and they'll be making the presentation on the update.
All right. There's John, Amy, Brian.
There's Brian, Mr. Wise on.
Yes.
There he is. Can't see him yet, but.
Okay, well, as he's getting connected, thank you for the time, Mr. President, tonight. We thought it'd be a good idea to, after we met with several of the board members, to get an idea of what the board's goals and ideas as far as compensation were for the district and where they would like to see us be as a district. We met on February 25th, I believe, and discussed those items that we had discussed in the January meeting with several of the board members. And we have come up with a kind of a guideline, a proposed plan, if you will, of where we kind of want to go in the next 3 to 5 years. And I believe Mr. Wise is going to speak on that.
Actually, Amy, you're going to start out, right?
Yes. So as John mentioned, the Board of Education expressed their goal for a 5-year plan to make adjustments to the salary schedule. Ray Team's very mindful when we meet in our conversations of keeping that goal in mind. The Board of Education also requested a compensation study done for staff. We are planning on using that data when the study information is available. We would like to be able to meet again with the board to find out what goals for the compensation study are. This information will be helpful in guiding our proposals and keeping our proposals in line with what your projections are.
Okay, currently one of the board goals is to hire and retain quality staff, and our starting salary is low and not competitive. We're currently 14th in the surrounding districts. We have been discussing adding 2,000 to the base for the first year with no step, 1,000 to the base year 2 with no step, and in years 3 through 5 would be a step. The percent increase of adding 2,000 is approximately 5.3619, if I remember Steve's numbers correctly. And this percentage would be added to classified and admin schedules as well. One of the things that we're trying to get away from is the talk of steps, and we're hoping to eventually eliminate the numbering system and go with just an alphabetic system. We understand that communication marketing to employees is important to address the concept of steps and money on the base. Steps do not equal years of service. And to address this, Ray Team will create a subcommittee for this education piece, create a marketing type flyer to distribute to staff, and set out a plan to educate staff on the district adding money to the base versus getting a step. As a 5-year, this is just we're still in a lot of discussion on this 5-year compensation plan. Basically is add right now 2,000 to the base with no step, add 1,000 to the base next year and no step, and an equal percentage of course going to be going to all the schedules, classified and admin. After the year 2, we will consider the compensation study that the Board of Education will have done. And so tentatively, years 3 through 5 looks like a step, and then we can always add some to the base. Part of it is we are going to have to make sure that we're staying competitive with our neighbors, especially our neighbors to the east. And I want to bring up just one little thing on our neighbors to the east. Dr. Moore, or Mr. Moore, Mr. President, we are a collaborative bargaining committee, which is a lot different than a collective bargaining committee. And that's something that we determined a long time ago. And that was determined with the help of Dr. Markley and both the unions. And we felt that we could be more valuable and reach more people. And I think that Mr. Tody saw that everyone in that meeting has an equal voice. And that's the important part of the collaborative bargaining committee versus collective. And anybody got any questions, we're willing to answer.
You guys are doing a great job, and I appreciate you trying to go in a direction that may not be the usual way. So this is a good starting point. Any other questions for any Ray Team?
Yeah, I have a question for John. I think it's important I know you did some prep work and had a table of where the starting salaries fell. And would you mind sharing what you shared in that meeting? I'd like the board to hear that about where we sat with our starting salaries.
Sure. So salary schedules are public information. So I went to each district's website. I believe it was about 15 districts, surrounding districts, KCMO, Grandview, Belton, Oak Grove, Lee Summit, Independence, Blue Springs, et cetera. And I found that out of the, I believe, 15 districts, as far as starting salary, we were 14th, I believe, out of those 15. And so, and at a current starting salary of 37,250, I believe, is that correct? And KCMO is currently at about 40,500, I believe. being #1 in the district. So, and then I also compared kind of a 15-year marker and then into the salary range marker as well. We were a little more competitive in that area. We were about 7th and 8th in those two areas, the 15-year mark with a master's, and then the highest step on the salary schedule you could get with a doctorate. So we were a little more competitive there than we were in the starting salary. So as we talked about, as Brian talked about, adding 2,000 to the base this year will actually put us up around, I believe, 5th or 6th. And then if we do that additional 1,000 the following year, should put us in the top 3. Now that doesn't mean that other surrounding districts won't, add to their base as well, but it definitely will make us more competitive, especially with those districts immediately touching us: KCMO, Lee Summit, Blue Springs, and Independence.
Right, and I might put in a plug though for the compensation study. I appreciate you doing all that work, but that's exactly what part of the compensation study would do, is annually help us sort out how to accomplish that, so you wouldn't have to do that work. But I do appreciate you doing that.
Right. Yeah, and there's obviously a lot more areas that the compensation study will cover. I mean, I didn't get into comparing administrative salaries or what a maintenance person makes in Lee Summit compared to Raytown. So I believe that compensation study will be valuable.
Right. Okay. So I had Dr. Shelton. I think I want to make certain that we discussed the cost of this effort. What is the cost of increasing the base salary for new hires relative to today? What we're doing today, what would be the cost if we stayed where we are today and we hire 30 teachers? And if we add 2,000, is it just 60,000? Is that a round number?
So if I understand your question,
yeah,
Mr. Tody, if we were to add $2,000 to the base, it would cost around $3.6 million to our salary and benefit expenditure.
Okay, but that's if everybody gets the increment of the 2,000 within the salary schedule pool. Is that correct?
That's correct. That would be that 5.3% increase filtered throughout all salary schedules.
Okay, and so but the amount of money that would be incremental, only the people that would start with the district this year, how much would that be?
So once again, I want to make sure I follow your question.
Yeah.
If you're asking about the number of new teachers we hire every year, we hire around 70 new teachers. We hired about 70 new teachers last year. We average about 100 new teachers every year. And now not all of them are brand new teachers. Some of them come to us with a master's degree and 10 years of experience, or maybe a bachelor's degree and 3 years of experience. And so they're all across the board. But assuming that those, let's say 70 new teachers each are in that first year of education, you're talking about $210,000 to add that that $2,000 to the base.
So the effect really is blended into the compensation of all the other employees. They get that benefit. That's kind of a trade for a no step increase. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And is the administrative salaries included in that, or is that when we talk about it, it is included?
Yes, that $3.6 million price tag includes all salary schedules, classified, certified, and administrative staff.
Okay. So I have one final question. And you and I talked about this, and I think I want to bring it up, and it's kind of complicated. But if I don't know what we say to the second or the fourth year teacher, fifth year teacher that was in the 15th range of the salary scale across the metro area, that party gets a bump of $2,000 or roughly. But what do we say to them about the 4 years that they missed? They wouldn't have got it the first, second, third, fourth. Now it's fifth. Now they get a bump. And I don't know how many teachers that is, but they call that, I think, in the compensation world, salary compression. And I'm wondering, what do we tell those teachers? And I'm looking for anyone that wants to answer that question. If you understand what I'm saying, that party was left without that money. And Marlene, you're looking at me like you understand the question. Can you help me with that? What should we do for those people? Or anyone?
Well,
Sure.
I do think that when what the normal teacher expects is a step. That's what I hear that they want. That's what they overwhelmingly tell me that they want. And what a step really is a raise. So I think that what we're trying to do, and I know Mr. Moore likes the idea of putting money on the base, because it gives people raises. You know, that's truly what every industry, most employees like to have a yearly raise. So as far as what do they say when, oh, this person's coming in making more money than I did, I think they would be happy that their district that they work for has a good starting salary, that we're attracting good people, because anyone that's working in our school district knows that it's better to have good people. It's not just what I make, it's in attracting good people. So I think they understand that. I think they understand what that means. And so I've never had that. I've never had someone with experience resent putting money on the base.
Yeah, and I just thought about this after the Ray team meeting, and I think it's worth Ray team looking at the issue to, because if you understand the logic, the person who was at the 15th in the pay scale in year 2, 3, 4, 5 only gets $2,000, but they would have gotten 4 years at $2,000 if we would have been 6 or 7 when they started with the organization.
But that's not correct, Mr. Tody. The way it works by steps is you're looking at about $1,100. And so we have, as of right now, there are no missing steps. We've compensated that. The board does make sure to make up and compensate for that.
Okay.
Right now, so if I just take bachelor's 16 or bachelor's plus 16, and you're looking at, if they're on 15, they're at 54,759. And if they got just a step, they're only going to get 55,875.
I'm talking about tenured teacher 1 year. The 1 year teacher that came in at 37 last year or 4 years ago, and is now 4 years as a non-tenured teacher and missed out because the starting comp was not bumped when they entered the district. How would do you see what I'm saying?
I don't understand. I guess I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, you see what I'm saying, John? I lost.
No, I'm here. I see what you're saying. So you're basically saying a teacher that started, last year started at 37.25. They're going to be on, but the money's going to flow through the salary schedule. So while they won't have necessarily a step in movement on the calendar, on the schedule, they will have an increase in pay. But I do see what you're saying. If we do freeze, then those teachers that started last year would remain on step 1. And I think that's something, we have to work through. Like I said, this is all just things that we propose, and this is a subject and a matter that we've dealt with for the last 10 years. Trying to figure out, when we were frozen on steps and we had the financial situation we were in back in the, around 2010. We were frozen for 4 or 5 years. And so we've dealt with that. And it's one of those struggles that we have with how the salary schedule is structured and how we set things up.
But I think there's a little bit of confusion, because even a teacher that started 4 years ago, even if we had not added any money to the base in that 4 years time, they're still receiving the steps and the other normal pay increases. So they're not going to be behind anyone if we add $2,000 to the base, because that's going to flow up to where they are right now, and they're still going to get a big increase in their pay. So no one's been here 4 years is going to be behind anybody who's just starting this year.
That's fine. I'd like to see that on paper. I mean, so we all can agree on the numbers. I understand your theory. I just
It's
like
not
to
a
see it.
theory, it's the way it is, but we
I'd
can
like
see it
to
on
see it on
paper.
paper.
So,
But that's why we do.
Mr. Tody, to answer that question from a teacher's perspective, like Marlene was alluding to, we're just glad as teachers that we have the money to be competitive and hire the best teachers. It's better for our district, it's better for our students, it's better for teachers. We know that if we are hiring better candidates and we have the money to hire the better candidates, that the workload of the other teachers will be better because we'll be able to hire more competent staff, more experienced staff. And we haven't had this problem in the past. We've had several issues with people who come to rate team and are upset about money. This particular one is not one of them, but that is going to be encompassed in this, create the subcommittee for the education piece. That's where we're going to also be educating people about these issues.
The only way that could possibly happen is if we voted to only add money to starting teacher salary and not to anything else on the pay salary schedule. And we've never done that, and no one is advocating that we do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just like, maybe somebody could put a pencil to the paper and we could just make sure. I just don't want somebody to come back and say, 3 years ago, I didn't get that bump because the way we handle it, we've had that issue. And I'm just trying to make sure that we've been fair to everybody and that's a party to this deal.
Well, and we can put that, we can discuss that at our rating meetings. We haven't,
Good.
they have not come up with a definite proposal yet. So these are, many times we have to take all these different things that come up into
Yep.
consideration. So,
Good. That's a great idea.
yeah.
All right, great job, guys. Any other questions? Any other board members have anything else for a rate team? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the March 6, 2021 consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
Abstain.
All right, and Mr. Landers abstains. He's relative listed on the item. Unfinished business, adoption of 21-22 academic calendar.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh,
President.
sorry, Mr. Markley, shoot, I forgot. Thank you for a reminder. I just wanted to mention the donation that was in the consent agenda. Aspire Energy donated more than 50 winter coats for students in the district. So we're very appreciative. That was very helpful. I like to mention those donations, and thank you, Rachel, for reminding me. All right, now the academic calendar. And I would entertain a motion to approve the calendar as presented. Is there a motion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Landers.
I move the board approve the 2021-2022 academic calendar as presented.
Is there a second? All right, Dr. Markley, we're going to speak to this item.
Thank you, Mr. President. You can see the calendar. It's very similar to ones we've had in the past. There's some unknowns, obviously, out there right now. Let's start with those first. One, we're assuming we can come back full in person, and that's the way this calendar is set up. The other is, there was a law passed a couple of years ago that we could not start school 10 calendar days prior to Labor Day, and we're assuming we're still under that. But this is a 173-day student calendar, which is 4 more than the current days that we have in the calendar for 2021. And also there's 184 teacher days as well. With that being said, I'll take any questions and yield my time.
Did you say we're adding 4 additional days?
4 additional student days, yes, going from 169 to 173.
And we still have the option of lengthening days by minutes to possibly make up snow days if necessary.
This calendar, and Melissa can chime in as well, but this calendar is almost snow proof, meaning we are intending Yeah, okay. What is snowproof?
I'm gonna hold you to
This
that.
calendar encompasses right under 2,000 hours. And as you know, we are constitutionally required, and DESE required to go 1,044 hours. So we have some days that we can miss completely and not have to make up.
All right, that's good. Any other questions for Dr. Markley? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, new business compensation study RFP. Is there a motion to approve the compensation study request?
Mr. President, I move to approve the compensation study request for proposal as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Dr. Shelton, did you want to speak to this?
This
Or Dr.
request,
Markley?
this RFP was born out of discussion at the finance committee meetings and has been developed, and we're asking that the board approve this RFP so we can go to market and then bring back the results of that to the board, hopefully at the April meeting, if not for sure the May meeting.
What kind of companies do we expect to respond to this RFP?
There are a number of companies that do this kind of work. CBiz, which we already have a relationship with, does this kind of work. We did a compensation study over 15 years ago with another company who I'm sure would be interested in doing the business again or having the business again. So there are companies that do this kind of work.
All right. Any
Dr.
questions?
Markley, I have a question. It sounds to me like you're supportive of this study. Is that fair to say?
I think that's fair to say, as long as that study also includes job descriptions. We want to make sure that we are comparably paying folks in our district along with others, and those job descriptions match.
Good.
And that's something we haven't done in a while.
So would you object if the contract at the first sentence says we invite qualified parties to submit a proposal to the Board of Education? I don't know if you'd object to that. My point would be, it would seem to make sense, since the board is authorizing payment to its employees, that the board is involved at various stages rather than the employees are examining and studying the compensation of the employees. Would you agree with that?
I'm trying to.
It's on the first sentence.
Hang
Yeah.
on, let me.
And there's some other references in here, but I think we ought to make it clear that we're the client. Not to say you're gonna, but I think we ought to make sure that everybody understands we're the client.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, then we make that change.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Any other question on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. All right, it passes. All right, defibrillator purchase. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. President, I move to purchase 22 AEDs from One Beat CPR Learning Center, LLC, for the total cost of $30,278.16.
Second.
Right. So my question is, can I get on the list and buy one of these for my own home use for use during Chiefs games?
I made the motion because I have it implanted in my chest.
All right. I think that he's telling the truth there. Let's see. Who's going to speak to the Dr. Shelton or?
Yes, I can speak to this. And as described in the background and rationalization, we've had AEDs for a number of years, and it's time that we replace these 22. We've developed the RFP that went to market, and you can see through the document that I provided, we had a number of good bids, but this seemed to be the best product at the best price. Also, I want to note that we have a grant from Baptist Trinity Lutheran that will pay or offset $11,970 of the purchase price of $30,278. So actually the cost to the district is going to be $18,308.16.
That's good. Is that the foundation that they were basically liquidating that foundation? We've received grants from them before, haven't we?
I believe we have received grants from them before, but I'm not sure if it's the foundation that you're referring to.
How did we get that grant?
Shirley Early applied for that grant, her department, Health Services.
All right, that's good.
Dr. Shelton, just a real quick question.
Yes, sir.
If we had a failure rate of 22 out of 34, that it's illogical to think that all 22 would fail on one day, the day of the test or whatever. Maybe it means that they failed over various periods of time, and maybe they did fail at one day. But in any event, can we develop a policy to test these things once or twice a year?
Actually, we regularly monitor these, and I believe it's on a monthly basis, but let me confirm that. But these are tested and monitored on a very regular basis.
That's all I care about.
Yes, sir.
Test and make sure that's happening, you know.
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
Mike Clemens in the facility operations department test these and monitor these devices on a regular basis, but I will get back with you on the frequency of that testing.
I don't need to know. I assume you'll take care of it.
Yes, sir.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. All right, motion carries. Insurance renewal. Let's see here. No, there we go. So let me have a motion to accept the proposed renewals.
Mr. President, I move to accept the proposed renewals as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Shelton, again on
Yes,
insurance.
yes, thank you, Mr. President. Dave Johnson from CBiz will join us, and you have the presentation provided. I did ask him to give us an overview of the renewal increases, if there are any, and I'd be able to answer any questions that you may have. But that presentation that he provided is in depth, and hopefully you've taken the opportunity to dig into that information. Dave, are you with us?
I am, Dr. Shelton. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
As Dr. Shelton mentioned earlier, we had a benefits committee meeting on February 23rd where we presented the renewals for these packages. The medical plan renewal offered by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City was originally an 8% increase. We were able to negotiate that to a 5% increase with no plan design changes. The dental plan from Delta Dental of Missouri was a no increase renewal with no plan changes. The vision coverage and life coverage, both voluntary, are in the middle of multi-year rate guarantees. All of the voluntary benefits will continue as is. We are going to add through the Districts Association with Benefits Direct, adding 2 new benefits, possibly home and auto insurance and possibly pet insurance. So it was a very good renewal. We're excited about it, and I'd answer any questions anyone might have.
Dave, I have a question. Can you see me?
Sure. Yep.
On the schedule, the claims dashboard, you have the 2 lines: retirees under 65 and retirees 65 and over. So the 65 and over, do you see where I'm at, Dave?
Yes, I know where you are. Yes.
So those are high percentage annual trends, 25.5 and 17.9. Is it customary in the school field that retirees 65 and over are not on Medicare?
So, Mr. Tody, if I could address that, it's by state statute, a retiree is allowed to take our insurance and maintain insurance until they choose not to have it any further. So
it is a statute.
It is a statute, yes, sir.
Can I add some clarification to that, Dr. Shelton? These retirees, most of them over 65 by now would have Medicare. And this plan would be a supplement to Medicare. Retirees also have the ability to get on a separate Humana plan that the district has offered that they pay for themselves.
So this is the supplement coverage, not the primary coverage. Is that, did I say that right?
For most of those retirees, yes.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah. And this is the kind of information that you'll be examining when you talk to us about the possibility of doing a self-insured plan. That's correct?
That's correct.
And then in the concern might be in a COVID pandemic, that these numbers, when the pandemic resolves itself, could be interesting. One or two cases.
That's true. That's true. Yes.
So that's something we'll have to sort out when we look at self-insured. We now have run through a pandemic and we're not done.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions before we vote on the motion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. All right, before the next item, I want to go completely off script for a second because I forgot to mention something. We, through our Grow Your Own program, which is giving scholarships to our students who will come back and teach for us at some point in the future, we have two brand new ones who we've hired. One, I believe, Ms. Plank, you said was Abby Bishop was her name. She already graduated and has been hired, and she's teaching where?
She's at Raytown Middle School right now.
She's at Raytown Middle School, and then we've also hired Emma Drace, and I believe she's going to be teaching at Eastwood Hills.
That's correct.
So really great to see that program finally coming to fruition, and congratulations to those two, and hopefully we'll see many more in the future. All right.
Hey, Mr. Moore, they are 2017 graduates, just to give.
2017 Raytown High graduates, I think.
Abby Bishop was South and Emma was High.
Okay, one from each. So great. 2017, so exactly 4 years later. All right. Award of bid for Lenovo devices. Scroll down, please, on the screen. Melissa or Rachel, can you scroll down on the screen, please, so we can see that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you not see that? I will try to.
You can't see the bottom.
You can't see the motion?
No.
I can see it.
I see it.
Okay, there we go. Is that better?
Yes. So I entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve CDWG for the purchase of listed Lenovo models through March 2022.
Second.
Motion a second. Melissa, did you have anything else you want to speak to on this one?
Just real briefly, this one's different than what I would normally bring to you in years past. Due to supply chain issues that we had forecasted, we had already purchased all of the computers for this regular computer rotation. So what this is doing is just securing the current pricing for the next fiscal year as we go on and purchase for grants or other items that come up. And so as always, if the purchases meet the threshold required to bring to the board, I will bring those additional purchases to you. However, we wanted to lock in the pricing for the next year.
So there's no dollar amount in the motion, no budget impact.
Correct. We're actually not making a purchase at this time. We're just securing pricing.
So
For future purposes. And so typically what I'll do is I go out to bid in February and we secure pricing through the end of March. We usually buy in the March and April timeframe. So that way, if for some instance prices go up, which we've seen at 5 or 6%, I already have that price locked in for a year. Or if prices reduce, then I can take advantage of the newer price going forward. So we always make that March timeframe so I can take advantage of pricing, either not be impacted by the increases or, take advantage of the decrease. This year we had to purchase early due to supply chain. So really what we're doing is securing pricing for our major purchases throughout next school year.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's almost like buying propane early to save money, right?
Exactly, except for I don't have to spend the money. I'm just locking in the price.
All right. Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, one other question. If we lock in the price and we get a benefit, what if we lock in 3 years of prices? I know
They won't
will do that.
They won't do that, sir.
You
Trust
asked
me.
that question. You must have asked that question.
Most companies, I'll do a 3 or 5 year on computers. They will only allow me to do 1 year. And that's honestly why we don't get nearly as many bids, is because I hold them to that. I also have language in the bid that if the fair market value of a device decreases, even throughout the year, they have to give us that lesser value or that lesser price.
And you're tough. You're tough.
A little bit sometimes.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right. Summer school. Entertain a motion to approve district summer school.
Mr. President,
Salisbury.
move that the board approve district summer school for grades K through 12.
Second.
Dr. Mixon, anything you want to speak to on this item?
It's actually Dr. Tarvin is our director of summer schools, and I believe Melissa was going to bring him in. Are you there, Dr. Tarvin?
He is on his way in.
Excellent.
There he is. Go ahead, Dr. Tarvin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me speak with you. We are looking forward to having summer school this year. We are planning currently on a 70% capacity. You will see in the report the 5 elementary locations. Central and South Middle schools will be hosting, as well as Raytown High School. And Northwood will host Northwood and Raytown Success Academy.
I might add also that keep in mind that the summer school plan that we have is in relation, it reflects our recovery plan. We've got more students that are going to be there for a longer period of time. We are going to be doing the SLA, the Summer Learning Academy, with our middle school students this year, as well as we're going to stretch SLA for June and July for our elementary students. And Linda's doing a bang up job of figuring out the additional resources that we're going to need, including staffing, to pull this off.
Brian, will it go through June for all summer school students, or through July for all the summer school students, or just SLA?
Yeah, we're going to do regular summer school in June and then SLA in July. And at this point in time, and Lynn is working through this, but at this point in time, middle school will very likely be half day.
Anything else you'd like me to speak to?
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Item carries. All right, next item was a request to have a discussion on the Meet the Candidate Forum. So who wants to speak to this first?
Yeah, I can give you the background, and then maybe that'll help promote the discussion. I wanted to watch the PTA forum the other night, and I was ill and decided I would watch the next day. Woke up and looked at the website, and there was nothing there. And I continued to search, couldn't find anything, and so I shot off some emails saying, "Where is it?" And the facts, I guess, are that the PTA organized, successfully conducted a forum. We had 40 some people, and we got some attended, but we used our Zoom for the patrons, and they were the moderator. And so my concern was how do I watch the recording? And the answer is that we didn't record. And we didn't record because I guess they told us not to for whatever reason. Whether we pressed it or not, I don't know. But we advertised on our Facebook pages, the forum. I read those, and it's clear that we were Zooming it. So I'm just I think I got to think we missed an opportunity we've got great candidates. We got great candidates who are very effective in front of people, and it's hard, if people have if they want to listen to our candidates, gosh, I wish we could have recorded that. So I had the idea, why can't we ask a Rotary person or someone to read a list of questions and not conduct, but we'll have a forum with whoever party might do that, and so that we can get out the message that we've got great candidates. And I ran into some pushback. Someone said it's a legal issue, and I said, well, wait a minute, we used Zoom before, maybe we made a mistake. But so I'm still trying to figure out if it seems to me like it's a good idea to try to get our candidates in front of our patrons. So I'd like to listen to my friends on the board and see what your thoughts are. If anybody has it.
Does anyone?
I agree. I agree with what you said. I think it'd be a good tool to try to increase involvement also, and also in what's going on in the district, and for people to know who their board members are, and know what they believe in.
What's the reason behind not recording it? They said it was legal. It was a legal reason.
No, the reason it wasn't recorded is the PTA did not request it to be recorded, Ms. Salisbury.
Oh.
And the reason behind that is they had never recorded a meeting that was in person. That's what I was told.
We never had Zoom either. All the meetings were in person. So yeah, obviously Zoom's a lot easier than bringing a camera and putting it up on all that stuff. So
there were some good answers to some of the questions and it would have been nice to hear them again. Yeah, I thought about that too, that it would be good to hear the answers again. And also it would be helpful to the people that did participate in by listening to go back and re-listen to those, the answers to some of the questions that were asked after the written questions were given to them, the ones that were on the spot. But nevertheless, it didn't happen. So
I think it would be a good idea to encourage those outside entities to record them in the future. Anyone else have any comments?
Does anybody know any Rotary people that we could say, your job is to read these questions. You don't have to think, you just have to read. No? Nobody knows any Rotary people. Jerry, you're a Rotary guy, are you?
I'm a Rotary guy, yes. The problem, one of the things that I see that has never, in the past when we've run for school board, organizations have said they wanted to have a meet the candidates night. Now granted, usually in the past, we weren't dealing with COVID. We weren't doing Zoom meetings and all this, and you would go somewhere and they may feed you, they may not, but the district or the candidates, or anyway, as far as I know, the candidates didn't go to an organization and say, would you do this? They came to the district, or they came to the website or somewhere and found out that the district was having an election, and they wanted to put on a thing to meet the candidates, and they would call me. The district didn't call me. And I'm sure we went to one over somewhere, and you were there that night, and they probably called you to see if you wanted to come to meet them, the candidates night. And I've been to some where all the candidates didn't show up. I guess what I'm saying is, I don't think it's our position to go out and ask an organization to conduct a meet the candidates night. If an organization comes and wants to do it, then that's a different story. They can get the phone numbers from the candidates, or I suppose because they get the list, it's published and who's running. But that's, let them come to us. Let's don't take it on as a board to go out and solicit groups to put on meet the candidates night. That's my thought.
I agree that we don't need to take it on as a board, but any single board member is free to approach any of those outside entities to make that request.
Mr. President.
Ms. Tittle.
I think involving the school district personnel and in the operation of the Zoom and so forth, it's a matter of time. The election is 4 weeks from tomorrow. And one of those weeks is spring break. 2 days, an additional 2 days are parent-teacher conferences, and another 2 additional days are vaccine vaccine days. And I know that when Mrs. Johnson first approached us as candidates, it was toward the end of January, which was well over a month before the initial meet the candidate night. And excuse me, it seems like there's a lot of preparation work to do that that would be a real push. It would be difficult in this short amount of time. And there are other, I'm sure Mr. Burton's received also, the League of Women Voters has asked for answers to questions. The Raytown NEA has asked for answers to questions. The Jackson County Republican Group has asked for answers to questions. So there are other ways that information is going to be getting out besides an in-person meet the candidate night. I'm not in favor of the district personnel being involved in this.
I'm not, I mean, I might just add one, maybe you didn't catch it. I'm not advocating a meet the person. I'm advocating just doing a Zoom, listen to the candidate. I agree, we shouldn't do a meet the candidate, but that's a lot different than having, doing what we're doing right here, right? No one would have a meet the candidate night in the COVID. So I'd have to quarrel with you about that. That's really not what I'm talking about. Something easy. But if you don't, I mean, Terry, if you're not going to ask the Rotary, then we don't have anybody else that would. Then I guess that's the answer, huh?
Well, anyone can approach. We all probably know Rotary people, but there's other organizations. We can ask them or anyone. Anyone, individual board member can approach anyone to ask them. But we can't make anybody do anything.
No, I didn't say that. I'm sorry.
Well, hopefully next time it will, maybe something will happen still this time. I'd like to see it happen closer to the actual election. And we'll make sure that hopefully the outside entity that's doing it will record it. So, any other questions or comments on this discussion? All right. Okay, first read, we have first read of board policies. So the policy committee already met on these policies. So we're just gonna put a first read here and vote on them next time then?
That is correct.
All right. All right. Next item is an item motion for approval.
President, before you move on, I'd like to direct the board's attention to one thing on the first read of the policies. This is something that was discussed in the policy committee meeting and asked that I direct the board's attention. Two of the policies pertain to conflict of interest. One of them is BBFA and the other one is GBCA. And in both of those policies, in BBFA, it's on page 6, and in GBCA, it's on page 5. The board has the option to either set an amount that will be the cap on gifts that may be received. And one of the conflict of interest pertains to the board, the other one pertains to staff. Or you can leave the language as it is currently proposed right now, which just says in excess of the amount established by the board. And one of the concerns raised by the committee was that in just looking at and referencing the policy itself, an employee or a third party wouldn't be able to look at the policy and ascertain what that amount was. And that it was probably a decision point for the board to make by the time we bring the policy back next month for action by the board as to whether the board prefers for there to be the amount recommended by the committee, which I believe was $150, or to leave it just in an amount established by the board, and the board can periodically decide what that amount is going to be. But then someone who is trying to determine that amount or ascertain what amount the board set is either going to have to go back through board minutes to locate that, reach out to the board secretary, or try to find the resolution that was passed by the board. So that is a decision point that the committee didn't necessarily want to make a recommendation and wanted the entire board to be able to address next month when it comes back as an action item.
So will we have a report from the committee next month, or does anyone want to speak to it now?
The plan is to give you a resolution, give the board a resolution and let you make the decision if you would rather have a resolution that outlines that threshold of whatever the dollar amount is. The policy review committee is recommended $150, or do we want that dollar amount to be reflected in the board policies? So either option is fine, but we'll have both available to you, either the resolution that you can approve setting that amount for all policies, or individually we can put that language in the individual policies. So it's really up to the board's wishes which direction we head with that, but either will meet the expectation of the policy and the statute.
So does anyone from the policy committee have any comments, or any other board members have any questions about this?
Mr. President.
Yes, Ms. Tittle.
When we discussed it at our meeting, in the policy at the current time, the amount was $100. We talked about raising it to $150. That is gifts, individual gifts to staff members or board members, the limit being 150. Because we thought the general idea, as I recall, was to put an amount and make it clear so that if someone, say, for example, from an organization who wants to purchase something for a teacher or a board member, if they want to know what the limit is, they can easily find it without, as Shelley said, having to go back and search or wonder or try to get a hold of someone. And so we had just talked about the amount of $150. And at our meeting, if I recall, we seemed to agree on that.
I would agree on the 150, but I also thought we agreed to just put it, whatever was easier, I think, in a resolution. And so that it would be easily noted whenever somebody had the question.
The policy committee was in agreement. Just what we need is the remainder of the board to be in agreement with us or not in agreement with us.
And I suppose we'll discuss this more at the next board meeting when the policy comes back. But does this, sometimes when Mr. Moore is reading the gifts, somebody's given $500 to South High basketball. Are those kind of gifts is what we're talking about? Or just something that would be, if they gave that to the basketball coach personally?
We're talking about personal.
Yeah,
individuals receiving gifts.
So not
the district, not the school, no.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, we can hear a report next meeting. All right, next item, entertaining a motion on extending contract. This is an item that was pulled from the consent agenda so we can vote on it individually. Entertain a motion.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Flanders.
I move to extend the current employment contract of Dr. Steve Shelton by 1 academic year through 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. This would extend the current contract and put it for making it 2 years. Is there any questions or comments on this motion?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question and make a comment. Dr. Markley, you sent me this contract this afternoon, and you also sent me contracts on the predecessor to Dr. Shelton, and I'm trying to remember. Were there any circumstances in the past that drove a decision to start doing this? I mean, it was only I think 2013. I think was or 11. What were there any circumstances that caused you to think you needed to do a 2-year deal that you can recall? Maybe you can't. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some circumstances were ranged from relocation of a person to come to our district, someone we wanted to be here, and we wanted to assure them that we wanted them here long term. And also the market kind of drives for those positions. Those are sought after positions, people that we're trying to get, and we want to keep those people around as long as we possibly can. So that's what it would be.
But now I understand, because at that time the gentleman was moving from Springfield.
Correct.
And he wanted to come here with some assurance that he would have a job for 2 years. I'm putting kind of rephrasing what you just said. Is that fair? Did I get that right? Does that make sense?
With that individual, yes.
Yeah. And so, and the other one, what was the general circumstances?
The other, I'm not following you when you say other. Can you be more definitive?
Dr. Pyle.
Dr. Pyle, well, we have, in fairness and also in having someone of her caliber in here, and those positions being the same and being sought after, we felt like it was appropriate to offer that same contract to both of those positions, both of them the same title.
So this is kind of a perpetuation of what we did in previous years. And I understand both are, we're going to have the same discussion, not the same discussion, the same principle on Dr. Huff. I think a lot of both of them. If we look at the fine print, this is to offer an extension, not for next year, which I think they've signed, but to offer it for the following year. And while they're a man of the highest character and do good work, are there any other? Do we have any other employees where we give 2-year contracts? Any other professional staff that you're aware of?
Just these two and myself, yes.
So excluding yourself, there would be 69 administrators. Forget for the moment, teachers, but they're 2 out of 69. You know, I'm going to vote against this, not against the employees. I certainly wouldn't want to see them leave. I don't think they will leave. There's no indication that they will. But it seems to me that an organization which is working hard year to year as a team, singling out individuals we're signing off on a contract for next year, seems to be a little more generous than I think is good business. And so I will vote no on both of them. And I would ask my colleagues to, you know, if is this a fair thing to do in light of business practices that we have with 99.9% of our other employees. I'd ask you to think about that.
Any other comments or questions?
I'd just make one comment and just remind, you know, there are not just administrators that have just like the contracts, but, you know, our tenured staff, they have an indefinite contract once they're tenured. So there are some that would have multi-year contracts just besides these two.
But you would agree, wouldn't you, that 99.9% of the administrator contracts have 1-year contracts?
I don't know if it's 99.9%, but I'd agree that it's those two, yes.
It's okay, 95 to 99. Okay, fine.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? All right, voting on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no.
No.
And let me do a roll call on that because I thought I heard more than one no. Mr. Landers?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Ms. Tittle?
Yes.
Mr. Burden?
No.
Ms. Plank?
Yes.
Ms. Salisbury?
Yes.
Mr. Tody?
No.
And the item carries. Next item, entertain a motion. Extend the employment contract of Dr. Brian Huff.
Mr. President, I move to extend the current employment contract of Dr. Brian Huff by 1 academic year through the 2022-2023 school year.
And a second.
Second.
Any questions or comments on this motion? All right, Ms. Tittle?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Landers?
Yes.
Mr. Burton?
No.
Ms. Plank?
Yes.
Ms. Salisbury?
Yes.
Mr. Tody?
No.
And the item carries. All right. Next meeting will be April 12th, 2021. And then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, I move that the board adjourn the regular Board of Education meeting at 8:33 p.m.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thank you very much for everyone. And thank you for all those who joined us this evening. Have a good rest of your evening.